Welcome back to Tipton Bros. Today, we will retell the story of Sergeant David B. Bleak, a Medal of Honor recipient whose actions in combat transcend reality, his citation reading like a work of fiction. Before we begin, I must disclose that I am no expert and never claim to be. Now, let's get into it. Born February 27, 1932, in Idaho Falls, David Bruce Bleak was the seventh of 9 children. The rural farming community promised little in the way of adventure, but was a safe and comfortable way of life. Bleak quickly grew bored of the monotony and found the opportunity he was searching for, dropping out of high school and enlisting in the U.S. Army. Despite his young age, David Bleak was a specimen, standing at 6 foot 5 inches tall and weighing 250 pounds. His stature was imposing, but Bleak was a kind soul, being described as humble and soft-spoken. Basic training was conducted at Fort Riley in Kansas. It was here where David was elected for medical duty. Soon after, he would join the ranks of the 223rd Infantry Regiment, 40th Infantry Division of the California National Guard. In January of 1952, Bleak's unit was selected for deployment into Korea, shipping out with nervous anticipation. Upon arrival, the 223rd Infantry Regiment would be stationed along the 38th parallel, in a location known as Minari Gal. The terrain was mountainous, and the front line was well established. Chinese and North Korean forces have by this point entrenched themselves firmly across from UN and US opposition, both sides with their heels dug deeply into the soil, reminiscent of trench warfare some 35 years prior. Casualties were high, and David Bleak worked the front lines as a field medic, rising to the rank of sergeant. Months of brutal combat continued, and the days of triaging the wounded all began to blur together for Bleak. This was until June 14, 1952. A patrol of the 2nd Battalion, 223rd Infantry, was readying itself to advance north on Chinese-held positions in hopes of capturing soldiers for interrogation. Bleak volunteered without hesitation to accompany the 20-man patrol as the standalone medic. Hill 499 was recognized as a hub for Chinese operation, a desolate and exposed position devoid of any cover. To lure the attention of enemy forces away from Bleak and his group, an assault on the west side of Hill 499 was carried out by F Company in the early hours of the morning. At roughly 4:30 a.m., the 20-man patrol would depart from UN lines and methodically work their way across no man's land under the cover of darkness. The formation would slink up the east slope of Hill 499, unaware of what was to come. As the lead element crested the hilltop, Chinese machine gun fire erupted, muzzle flash illuminating the now exposed men of 2nd Battalion. Several soldiers were wounded in the initial volley, and Bleak, towards the rear of the patrol, rushed forward with aid. The group continued up Hill 499 with unceasing automatic weapons fire pummeling their advance. This drew the attention of nearby Chinese, who opened fire from a separate location. According to eyewitness reports, David Bleak sprinted and dove into the enemy trench, tackling a Chinese soldier. He postured up and broke the man's neck with his bare hands. He stood, but was rushed by 2 more Chinese fighters. Bleak grabbed the second man by the throat, viciously squeezing until he fatally crushed his windpipe. The third combatant scuffled with Bleak until David fished out his combat knife and plunged it deep into the man's chest. Hustling back to his quickly fading patrol, Bleak continued to treat the wounded of 2nd Battalion. While administering aid, a Chinese hand grenade bounced off the helmet of a fellow soldier, landing in his vicinity. Wrapping up the man to his immediate right, Bleak shielded his brother in arms with his humongous frame. Both were unharmed in the ensuing blast. Brushing themselves off, the formation successfully took the hill, along with a handful of Chinese prisoners. But, on their descent to UN lines, a Chinese machine gun nest ambushed the patrol once more. 3 men were immediately struck, crumpling to the ground. Bleak ran to his injured comrades, being shot in the leg while dressing their wounds. Of the 3 soldiers, one was entirely incapacitated, unable to move. Although dealing with a gunshot wound to the leg and withering machine gun fire, Bleak began carrying his wounded companion down the face of Hill 499. During his labored withdrawal, David Bleak came face to face with two more Chinese. He set the wounded man at his feet and caught the two Chinese soldiers completely off guard. In something out of a comic book, David Bleak, standing 6'5", 250 pounds, charged at full speed, smashing the men's heads together with such force that it fractured their skulls. Bleak picked up his fellow soldier and continued down the slope until he and his formation reached UN lines. Bleak is credited with single-handedly, no pun intended, saving the 20-man patrol by both administering help and killing or neutralizing 5 Chinese combatants. Bleak was hospitalized for his wounds, but returned for a brief stint of duty on July 9, 1952. His enlistment was finished in Japan, retiring from the Army a decorated staff sergeant. October 27, 1953, David Bruce Bleak was awarded the Medal of Honor by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Following his military accolades, Bleak would occupy his time with numerous odd jobs, being a dairy farmer, truck driver, and even a radioactive waste technician. He fathered 4 children and was a proud grandfather to 9 grandchildren. David Bleak would pass away in Arco, Idaho, at the age of 74 on March 23, 2006, from a combination of Parkinson's disease and emphysema. Bleak has a monument erected in his honor at the Lost River Cemetery in Butte County, Idaho, which you can visit today. I hope you've enjoyed the unbelievable story of David B. Bleak. We are a small channel, so a like is greatly appreciated, and recommendations are always welcome. Again, I am no expert, and never claim to be. Until next time, on Tipton Bros.